Hello, everybody. Welcome to another daily dose of gaming news and all that good stuff. And as always, I also publish on Rumble and on Patreon for extra support. Any kind of updates and such, I usually go about on Twitter X. I did manage to do my channel update yesterday. It's basically what I've been saying since the beginning of the year, my overall plans, but I go a little bit more in details, specifically on the gaming series, the upcoming games that I will do the publishing on those series there. But yeah, other than that, later today we'll have the second episode of the Callisto Protocol, and yeah, I think regarding updates, that's pretty much it. Let's go to the news. Get some interesting tidbits here and there. ZOTAC, which is a AIB partner for NVIDIA RTX cards. There is some typos here, especially on the higher end models. Given that we have here this one, ZOTAC Gaming GeForce RTX, the Solid OC. It's not the highest end, and suppose you got a typo here regarding the memory speeds here, which it's faster than the higher end, which seems to be the AMP or HAMP Extreme Infinity. And on this one, Extreme Infinity, we got the power consumption of 600 watts. And again, here on the details is still the memory clock on the higher end on the other Solid OC. Again, regarding this, I think it's really a typo here. The other information here seems to be in line of the official NVIDIA information. The only thing here with this extreme infinity of getting around 600 watts here, I will have to assume that probably is because of the double bias feature, which has the extreme overclock, I think, on that one of the BIOS, if not mistaken. I will have to assume this will not reach exactly the 600 watts, at least at a constant level. I think we might have on the 600 watt in peak, in peaks of demanding performance, I will have to assume. But it's not something that is sustained. Even though 600 watts can be delivered for the 12-watt power pin, but you have that extra 75 watts coming from the PCI port. But yeah, it's a little bit worrying that this is starting to reach critical levels of the how high that 12-volt power pin can deliver. Again, hopefully this is the power consumption of the card itself. It's not necessarily all coming from the 12-watt power pin, as I mentioned, because there is 75 watts. The possibility of that PCI port delivering 75 watts by itself. So we might get some mix and match regarding what the cable is powering through, and even the PCI port, it always delivers at least some kind of power to the GPUs, mainly because, for example, when you boot up the computer. And you got the sense pins also. There is also that part of the BIOS that runs all the hardware to see if it is okay, to check out if everything is okay. They need to check through the PCI port on the case of the GPU. So there's that. And it can be configured on the BIOS. And again, I think it's on the drivers themselves of the GPUs can be configured the way that it uses power. At least that's the perception that I have. But yeah, other than that, it's interesting, the 5090, because it's a Halo product. Again, I don't foresee seeing a lot of GPUs at the MSRP. Probably only the Founders Edition, maybe. But yeah, I will assume the average price will ramp up to $2,500 for the 5090 and around 1,500 for the 5080 in terms of average prices from the models that we've been seeing here. I think I covered if not mistaken, the Gigabyte lineup or something like that. Again, I'm not sure. Yeah, there seems to be a huge disparity in terms of price through the models, because basically the 5080 can go up from $1,000 until $2,000, which is the starting point of the 5090. and seeing a huge disparity of $1,000 that AIBs can play around, let's say, throughout their models. I think overall the 5080 will not sell that well, mainly because they will the prices of the models will start creeping up too much near to the 5090, and it reaches to a point if you have that amount of money to spend on a GPU, you might as well go for the full throttle. So go all the way into the cheapest 5090 that you can find. Um, but yeah, we'll have to wait for independent reviews to see how well the price to performance, again considering MSRPs, how well it behaves between the 5080 and the 5090, and how both of them can be compared to the rest of the available products that are on the market, and especially comparing to the previous generation. But yeah, a lot of stuff seemed interesting that we've been seeing here and there. But yeah, I will not trust any kind of first party information until I see at least some reviews out in the wild. And with that, we will have the review embargo for the 5090 will be lift up in the 24th, if not mistaken. And on the date that the cars, so the 5080s and the 5090s, will go up on sale, we'll have the embargo for the 5080 review is lifted there also. So on the 30th of this month. But yeah, and just a quick update also on the new technology. Again, I can blame here on the, especially on the DLSS 4 or the DLSS technology as a whole, especially after the introduction of frame generation, so fake frames. Um, again, I really do think that, again, the upscaling part of the DLSS, and I think NVIDIA should have focused a little bit more of distinguishing things from the part of the upscaling technology of the part of the package that it is DLSS. The part of the upscaling should be different, better from the part of the frame generation, because now we have the normal frame generation, and then now we have the MFG, which is multiple frame generation. Again, it's getting a little bit more tricky to get a conversation, and when we speak about DLSS 4, people might think that you're just talking about the technology on the upscaling side of things, or some people might be talking as a whole, as a package. But yeah, I think the upscaling technology is good. And from what we can see, the part of the upscaling, which includes to a certain extent ray reconstruction, the super resolution, which is basically the upscaler itself, and the DLAA, which is basically anti-aliasing, which is trying to smooth out the when the super resolution works. You have to have some anti-aliasing, because then all the image can get a little bit blocky, I suppose. Again, this will be retrofitted, or can be, from what I understand, compatible with previous generations. I think it can go to the 20 series, if not mistaken, the part of this upscaling. The only thing that it's basically, yeah, the at least the deep learning and TLizing will work from the RTX 20 to 50 series. And again, the frame generation is only for the 40 and up, because frame generation, I don't think it works on the 30 series. Again, then we got also these exclusive things here. Um, but yeah, as you can see here, at least the upscaling is good, because it allows people that have older GPUs to still list, even if the GPU is not good to run at the native resolution, at least on the games. Then we have this, which is in the games that do support DLSS versions of this technology. At least with DLSS 4, at least these older GPUs can reduce a little bit the resolution they are played with, and then upscale to, I don't know, 1440p, 4K, depending on the older GPU itself. Um, and I think this is good thing per se. I don't like is the frame generation, because then starts to introduce lagging on the system and all that jazz. But the thing here is the fact that this DLSS 4 supposedly will use less VRAM, supposedly. And we got here this I don't know which game it is. Supposedly it uses in this case specifically. But this also counts with frame generation, which again it can be inducing to certain errors, but at least uses less 400 megabytes of VRAM. So supposedly it should be lighter on older GPUs because older GPUs have consistently have less VRAM on their hardware. I think we might see something good out of this. I'm not sure. That's why I usually tell we need to wait for the reviews, because I will have to assume that they will try to dig deep in terms of comparison with older generations and taking into account DLSS, which I think it's not widely used, but it's used in I think it's used more in older hardware. So people have a better idea how well it behaves. I will assume we will have, if not on the review embargo lift, probably some deep dives on the use cases of DLSS by itself when it comes out. But it's interesting, the upscaling technology, or how they went about it, changing from I forgot to the previous one. I forgot the name, but now it's the transformer algorithm or whatever it's called. Before it's CNN or something like that, or CCN. And now they are using what they call the transformer model, which is very interesting. Again, but what I don't like, for example, and we have a case here of the latency in terms of the frame generation. As you can see, interestingly enough, with DLSS2, he had a PC latency supposedly of around 45 milliseconds, which is 71 frames. Still is a little bit too much. Usually, at least when I pay 4K, 60, at least mm, the millisecond seems to be a little bit lower, but I might remembering wrong. But yeah, even when you put out all the comparatively from the DLSS2 to the DLSS4, when you start putting all the bells and whistles on upscaling and frame generation to reach these 246 frames, again, there is the same kind of latency regarding the DLSS2 technology, which is like very old. It was not very perfect. It introduced a lot of latency between that. Even I will assume here there is the reflect technology on, and you can see the difference between the DLSS 3.5, the introduction of a little bit extra latency. Again, taking into account that if you have a base frames of around 60 seconds, 60 frames or around abouts, and if you introduce frame generation, in terms of how the game feels, in terms of lagginess, from what I perceive of the technology, I never experimented myself, but the consensus seems to be that you have a better experience. Then, for example, try to use frame generations when you start with a frame with a base frame rate, sorry, below 60 frames per second. I think there is a consensus on that, the minimum required to use this kind of technology in terms of the frame generation is at least a consistent 60 frames per second. So the lagginess, it's not that noticeable, but then again, it's almost not noticeable. It does seems to be noticeable enough for people to have a perception that there is some lagginess on the system. But yeah, we'll have to wait the deep dives that people are going to make with DLSS 4, trying to see some comparisons, see how it behaves on the system side of things, and how this can be approached on games. Again, supposedly this will the good thing of DLSS 4 is, at least in the side of things of the upscaler, it's I think it's retro compatible with the games that already have DLSS 3.7 or below, if not mistaken. So at least it's something that it might be adopted in a bigger scale than other technologies. But yeah, and also here we got, I was talking about VRAM. I saw this article, why 8 gigabytes of VRAM GPUs might not be future proof. Again, this is a most recent benchmark from PC games hardware. But I already seen this. In this case, they go about with the RX, the 7600 non-XT and the XT version, because they are the same chip. The only difference is extra VRAM. and the way that that extra VRAM was adopted, it doesn't not interfere too much with the memory bus and the such because it's a clamshell design. I saw previous comparisons more in line. I think it was the 4060 Ti 8 gigabytes and the 16 gigabytes versions from who was it called? Oh my god, I'm completely horrible names. I know that Hardware Unbox did one deep dive with that, trying to squeeze out memory, the VRAM and how it compares between those two models of NVIDIA, the 4060 Ti versions. And Daniel Owen, I think, also did a deep dive with the 4060 Ti's, if not mistaken. And then, and this really does go in line with why people, customers, are not satisfied with the low amounts of VRAM, especially from NVIDIA part, and especially even more with lower end GPUs. Even though they will try to justify they will maintain the same amount of VRAMs to a certain extent because their new technology allows them to play games with this DLSS stuff there using less VRAM. But then again, usually people tend to go first for the rasterized performance, and when you start trying to tick the graphic options a little bit higher, it tends to use more VRAM, and then you are basically mandated to try and use the technologies that NVIDIA uses on their products and try to reclaim a little bit of that VRAM for the overall fluidity of the game. But yeah, interesting thing here again. You see noticeable stuff here, especially when you start creeping up texture size and graphic fidelity up, going up. You start to see some differences between the GPUs in terms of performance, given that the more amount of VRAM is more optimal, because even sometimes some games try to optimize the usage of VRAM depending on the GPU that you have, but some do not and just fill your VRAM, and then there is the memory leaks from the VRAM to to the RAM system, and again, it induces the stuttering that you usually you see after a while playing a game. But yeah, this is why also one of the reasons probably people will jump from the 5080 to the 5090, because if you will reach a point that again, if you want to play 4K or do some I don't know, more professional workloads, the amount of VRAM on the GPU is very essential. But yeah, this is what I got here from hardware. In terms of games, just a quick roundup again with the blend of the Dawnwalker. In terms of the presentation, again, on this article, it has the cinematic trailer, which is pretty good. Got a little bit of raising the expectations for this game. Just a quick roundup here that Rebel Wolves, which is a studio that was formed 3 years ago by the previous Witcher 3 Wild Hunt director. And then it goes here for kind of overall picture of what they did with the presentation. Again, as I mentioned on the music side of things, you notice some The Witcher 3 influences on the music in the environment of the music, the feeling. And of course, because it's set on a kind of medieval setting, which is the 14th century Carpathia Mountains, in a fictional region, which is the Vale Lenora. And again, on the CGI trailer, we see the protagonist first encounter with the vampires. I'm not going to enter too much on details there. And basically, after this trailer, which is the beginning of the game per se, the first thing that you have like a setup for the game. The game itself begins 2 years after the events on the trailer. And then basically the game will report to feature two different loops. Again, I mentioned this day and night. During the day, the protagonist Cohen will fight basically like a human, and during the night, he can use basically his vampiric powers because it's nighttime. We have that thing there. And then also, I did forget to mention this, players will be able to befriend or become the enemies of various characters. The form will probably be smarter because basically the main goal is trying to take down Brancis, which is this vampire, if not mistaken, and freeing his family, so Cohen's family, though he can ultimately go entirely solo. Again, we got the cycle, or not the cycle, but the time limit that you have, which is 30 days and nights to make this succeed, the overtaking of branches. Um, but we got here one of the things I find it interesting, which is the blood hunger mechanic, which is not only will when you have more blood hunger, Cohen will be weaker in combat, but he might lose control and kill even a friend, potentially also failing quests and all that jazz. Because there is this resource management with the blood hunger, which is very interesting because if you don't keep yourself fed, which is interesting, you might get like the blood loss kind of a thing, and you're on a quest with a ally or something like that, and then you lose control, and all the failed statuses there. Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, there is no release window. Supposedly on the summer of this year, we'll get a gameplay, if not a gameplay trailer, at least some gameplay. I will have to assume, explaining, maybe getting an overview of the mechanics, a little bit of the mechanics there on the game. I don't know. Well, hopefully we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I'm very encouraged by the what I saw from the Twitch stream that they did. And again, it's already, I think it's already a Steam page. It's on my wish list. And then lastly, we got here this article again. There is some kind of conversations that people have that again, the biases to a certain extent of at least our point of views can be influenced by what we hear. And this article goes about Tim Cain. I followed up this guy. I usually like his videos because he focuses more on the games in an abstract way. It so far it doesn't seem to me that all the videos that he has kind of what we can perceive as an agenda per se. I think the agenda that he has is uh, talking in an abstract way regarding game development, without any kind of biases of the, I don't know, the acronym mafia and all that jazz. But I think there is some misinterpretation what he said on the video. I watched the video for this article because I thought what they I don't know, what they perceive is not the correct way of what he was trying to communicate here. Um, Again, Tim Kaine is one of the creators of the original Fallout, and I think, if not Neverwinter Nights, Ultima, I think it was Ultima, something like that. He is seems to be a pretty good game developer. Yeah, the fact that he didn't blame gamers for providing bad feedback. I think he was trying to get the conversation going, of trying to see both sides of the things, because he is really, at least my perception from him is a nice guy, in the sense that he likes to make games and he likes to play games, and he have kind of point of view of both sides of the thing, and he's trying to get around and starting getting a conversation of where both the corporation side of things, so the game developers and all the persons that work around the game, can have a more healthy discussion with the customers and the gamers themselves, which I think is it's a positive overall work that is trying to do around it. At least that's the what I get from his videos. And he started off the video saying, I want to give you the raw and filtered response to the title of the video. Do devs know what gamers want? And there it is. No, no, we don't know what you want. We have no idea, seriously, what you want. And basically, this is because game developing, to a certain extent, and to a big extent maybe, it's a creative process, and as in any kind of artist, um, let's say a musician, a painter, or something like that, before they're trying to enter in a creative process, whatever it is, for example, musicians will not go and ask to the fans, let's say, what they want to hear, because when you start entering in that interference on this creative process, you will get let's say with a musician, we'll get the music nobody wants to listen because he's trying to please everybody, and the piece of art, in this case music, becomes so bland, with the lack of better adjective for that, that nobody wants to listen because it doesn't have any kind of flair, doesn't have that creative finger from the artist in the art itself. And I think it's what the point that Tim Kaine was trying to reach is, to a certain extent, even when people are open to feedback, given that game development is a very complex complex sorry very complex process. It involves a lot of stuff, not only the technical side of things, but for example, on the game, usually you have like game systems, the characters, what they should look like, the setting of the game itself, a lot of things, and trying to piece together the feedback or before the creation the creative process starts. I don't think it's a healthy thing. I think the games that we really do enjoy, usually um, we have to have the trust to a certain degree on the game director and the creative process that involves creating a game for all these stages, and hope that they infuse what the developers really want to do, and uh, pass it to the market, the product, the final product. And then maybe if there is something that can be fine-tuned after the game is launched, I think it's the better process to go about in receiving feedback. But even then, the problem with the feedback process is usually, to a certain extent, Tim Ken is right. Sometimes what we can identify is what we don't like, and even then, when you start by the process of elimination, when you say you don't like this, but then again, what do you like? The otherwise doesn't mean that the fact that you hate something, the counterpart of the thing that you hate is the thing that you like to see on the game. And I think it's what he's trying to get at is that the overall scheme of things, feedback is good, at least to have a notion what people are more into it. But then when you give the feedback, even if it is a very broad strokes feedback, you have to trust that that the you have to trust that the message that you passing through reaches in a certain way. But then we got all the process of miscommunication, trying to be specific in certain ways of what you don't like, and maybe they can get to a point that they might understand what you're coming from. Again, that's why overall this process it's always a little bit complex and complicated. Uh, doesn't mean necessarily when you say that you don't like a thing, or that you want something out of it, it's not being expressed in the best way possible. In the same way goes around with game developers, what they're trying to achieve. The same way, for example, a good movie can be interpreted in different ways. The same way that a game, when you play it and you have the themes that tries to approach and all that jazz, people when they have several interpretations of what the developers were trying to do there, can be interpreted in different ways. Usually, these are the games that when the debate or healthy debate is pulled through, I think it's when the game, to a certain degree, succeeds, or when you try to tell a more specific story with a confined setting, and do it in a very purposeful way. Even if people don't like it, again, it's the message that the game developers were trying to pass through, a unique experience from a very specific point of view. And I think sometimes the debate can be lost in that, because people mm, don't understand what the developers were trying to do. Again, this is not excusing sloppy games, or any kind of, let's say, DEI infected games. I think what Team Kane is trying to do here is trying to explain to a certain extent the processes from the side of the developers. They really want to take feedback and improve the experience for the gamers the best they can. Even then, sometimes even when they want to introduce that feedback on the game, sometimes they are a little bit lost on the feedback that they receive, because there is a very lack of specific direction that people are saying them to go for, and sometimes very broad strokes. And even again, given that fortunately the gamers are a very diverse taste audience, again, what I like might not be what you like, and vice versa. And sometimes in the weeds, again, taking all that feedback from, again, people will like different range, different kind of options, different kind of things in games. And again, they don't know sometimes what to do with that, because everybody's saying they don't like anything to a certain point regarding that project. But yeah, I think it's more in line with that. He's trying to start the conversation of having a healthy debate of, again, sometimes this can be a little bit tricky and more complex than it seems. Again, taking into account that we have honest players on the creative process, and we have honest players on the side of gamers, on the side of each debate, that they really want to reach a consensus of what to expect in certain cases from a game, and not only just bashing out of nowhere. I think this is what Tim Kaine is trying to do here, because in the end, is right. There is no possible way to make a game that will make everybody happy, and if, when you go in pursuit of that, nobody will buy your game. That's for sure. And then he had what's interesting to me, and the channel that he has, it's really acknowledged that we gamers don't even agree on the fact that we are disagreeing between each other. And I think that the point of view from him is seeing that, okay, a lot of people say they don't like this, and then a lot of people say that no, they like what other people don't like, and what they don't like, it's, again, it's all of this mishmash of sometimes the feedback goes about. But then again, this guy wraps up here on the article, trying to compare it to the what this Assassin's Creed executive producer said, Mark Alex Cote, regarding the gamers. Again, what this guy is saying here is trying to excuse their sloppy product to the gamers. Again, this is not what Tim Kaine is doing. Again, he's trying to be a little bit more subtle, and a little bit more honest on his approach there. And I think this article, who wrote the article, John F. Trent, didn't perceive it in that way, and I just wanted to make my interpretation of the video itself, and I think it was not perceived that way. Again, I understand to a certain degree why people taking a little bit back on these opinions, because we've been seeing a lot from this Ubisoft people, and some indie developers, and some community managers from the other games, that again, they are blaming gamers for everything that is going wrong, and it not exactly that what Tim Kaine is doing here. He is trying to really try to get an honest conversation going regarding feedback, and basically interactions between the developers that are in good faith trying to make a good game, and the customers that really want a good product so they can buy that product there. I think mainly that gist of this article, of the video that Tim Kaine did, and I think John F. Trent might not seen that for what it is, given, again, I understand also the fact that it might be misinterpreted, at least from what I gather from the video that Tim Kaine did regarding if do devs know what gamers want. But yeah, let's go for the gaming deals. We got Alien Dark Descent, 55% off. We got Dredge. This is Digital Deluxe Edition, 40% off. We got Domekeeper is still on sale, so 50% off. I really do recommend this game. I play a couple of hours here and there, and I really do enjoy this game. We got also Wall World, again, stamp of approval for my part, 70% off on the base game, and I do recommend you buy the DLC, which is Deep Threat. It goes a little bit more on the story side of things, and more upgrades and some boss battles. Really interesting, and I really did enjoy playing this game. And then lastly, from Steam, we got still Ghostwire Tokyo, 80% off. There is the deluxe version also, but it's double the price basically. On GG, we still have Alien Isolation, a day or so date of recording this, and it's 75% off. No Man's Sky is 60% off, which is not the normal thing here now for this game. So again, huge amount of content updated, and that since the launch of the game, I think they are now delivering what they promised on the launch of this game. And then finally, we got Spirit Farewell Edition. I did manage to play the demo of this game, and I did publish on the YouTube page. It's on a demo playlist, and you have a good idea what this game is about. The demo is not that long; it's like half an hour, but gives you a good idea what the gameplay system is and what the game's trying to tackle. But yeah, this is it for today. I will just wrap up with a plug on my Patreon for extra support. And the extra support at this moment in time trying for me to find a better storage solution so that I can have backups of backups for the stuff that I do for my clients. And of course, extra space for the videos that I do for the channel. And with all that said, I hope you have a wonderful day. Now we'll see you in the next one. So until then, Kunamy Master out.